currently home alone right now, so I figured I would film down here in the living room with a nice little plant. A cat might end up joining me if Sterling ever wants to come over here. I can see him. Or Jasmine! Hi! So we've got Jasmine to join us today, and now we can get on with the video. Hey guys, it's Hannah, and today I am doing my, what am I doing? February wrap-up and March TBR. I had to think about what month I was in. I am doing this in the AM, and so I am currently drinking my morning coffee. So if something I say sounds a bit odd or a bit off, we're gonna blame it on the fact that I haven't had my coffee yet. If anyone's curious, I drink my coffee black. Most of the time when I'm at home, if I go out and get it somewhere, then I'm gonna get like a fancy drink. But if I'm at home, I just like it black. So in the month of February, I ended up reading 4 books. I am currently reading 2 books that we'll also discuss, and then I'm gonna go over my March TBR. So the first book I read in the month of February was The Cherokee Trail by Louis L'Amour. This book is about a woman who goes to run a stagecoach stop out in the plains of, I believe it's Texas, out in the plains of the Wild West, and it's set right after the Civil War, and the job was originally given to her husband, but her husband was murdered when these guys raided their land and burned down her house and killed her husband. But she has the same initials as her husband, so she went in his place along with her daughter and took over the stage company. So it's kind of about her changing it for the better, her having to deal with people not wanting her to do that. And then there's this whole like subplot with these bandits and stuff. And I really enjoyed it. One thing I really liked about it is there were 2 potential love interests. If you ask me, there was only one that was worthwhile, but there were 2 potential love interests. But her husband had just recently died, and she kept saying, I'm not looking for love right now. And then the loves weren't forced upon her. Like, she acknowledged that, oh yeah, I mean, obviously I could marry him, but I was really in love with my husband. He just died. I'm not looking for that right now. I'm good the way I am. And that was just such a refreshing thing to see in a Western, but also just in general. Like, to not have a relationship forced upon a character like that was amazing to read. Obviously I did have one who I would have preferred her to be with if she had ended up with someone, but I was so happy that she just didn't end up with anyone. And at the end of the book, I guess this is technically a spoiler, but just at the end of the book, she's single Pringle and she's fine with it. And that was so refreshing to see, and something I wish we saw more in books. I also just really loved her as a character, because I'm just very impressed with how Louis L'Amour writes his women characters. He does such a good job of making them seem so real and authentic, and their strength is not them being able to like throw a knife into someone's throat or to like punch a guy out in a fight. Their strength just comes from themselves and just how strong their mentality is to just keep going on no matter how tough the times are. That kind of strength is beautiful to see. So I highly recommend this book, especially if you're wanting a Western with a female-led character. Just look up some Louis L'Amour books. I have been very impressed with them so far. Speaking of that, I feel like I ought to mention 3 of the 4 books I read in February were Western books. So this is going to be a very Western heavy wrap-up, and apologies for that if you don't like Westerns, but it's what I read this month, so obviously I'm going to talk about them. The next book I read was a bit of a disappointment. That is Famous in a Small Town by Emma Mills. It was a very anticipated book, both for myself and my sister. And she actually was given it for Christmas because we both just love Emma Mills books and we both wanted to read it, and Mom knew that, and she gifted it to Joanna. So she finished it, and then like a week later we were going to meet up for something, and so she was bringing it for me to read. And she was like, you have to read this book. It's good. It's good. So that's the kind of review I got when I went into this book. I had read the little like snippet that they released, and I knew the synopsis, but other than that I hadn't read any reviews for it. Then my sister, who absolutely loves Emma Mills, is telling me it's good, but you'll get to this one part. And yeah, so that's the review I'm going into this book with. And I have to say, it was good, but you get to this one part, and yeah. It's just another one of those books that makes me feel like I'm no longer the target audience for YA. Like, it's not a bad book by any means. But it just makes me feel like I'm too old and that I'm no longer in the category that YA is meant for, and so I'm not enjoying it as much. And it's just such a weird sensation because obviously I'm not that old, so I can't explain it, but that's just kind of the way I've been feeling with a lot of these young adult contemporaries so far, and it's kind of sad to see. So this book is about a girl named Sophie, and she lives in a small town, and she is getting ready to kind of go off to college, and then this new boy comes in town, and he's living with a family that she babysits for, and everybody knows everybody because it's such a small town, and it's just kind of about their friend group and the changes that happen within it. And I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the spoiler. I will put up a picture of the book, and when that goes away, you can come back if you don't want to be spoiled and you haven't read the book, or if you don't care, you can stay. Also, here's a timestamp for when I stopped talking about it, and now we're gonna start. The certain point that you get to is she has an older sister. And throughout the book, you read these texts that she had with her older sister, and then later in the book, you find out that her older sister had actually passed away, I believe in a car crash. But the way Sophie had talked about her throughout the book made you think that she was still alive. And that was just kind of a big old oof. But then it wasn't discussed enough. There was just a brief, like, I'm sorry for your loss. And then that was it. It was not flushed out at all. Nobody was like, hey, nobody talked about it. And I feel like that should have been something that was talked about. So I can't really say I was a fan of the twist. I think it was clever. I actually do think it is pretty realistic in a way. I just wish they had discussed it more after they revealed it. I think it's kind of a disservice to not touch on it again after you reveal such big news like that. So that was just a bit disappointing. Basically, I think it was a good book. I think I gave it 3 stars. Let's check Goodreads. Yeah, I gave it 3 stars. Like, it was an enjoyable book. It's like a typical young adult contemporary with a kind of jarring twist at the end. Some people might not consider it jarring. I considered it kind of jarring. And yeah, it was good, but not great. And that kind of disappointed me a little bit, partly because it makes me feel like I'm old, partly because it's Emma Mills, and so far I've just like really loved everything else she's written, and I just didn't really love this one, and so that was a bit disappointing. Next 2 books I read, I'm gonna kind of lump together because they go in a series together, and that is The Rider of the Lost Creek by Lewis L'Amour, which is the Kilkenny series book 1, and The Mountain Valley War, which is the Kilkenny series book 2. Both of these books follow Kilkenny. He's a gunslinger that doesn't want to be a gunslinger. I don't know what it is about this man, but I love him. In the first book, he appears in this town to help out an old friend who had helped him in a time of need. And there's kind of like I want to say turf war. That's not the right term. Like a land war, range war. But then there's also like, you know, some ulterior motives going on. And of course he saves the day. And in the second one, there's kind of a similar thing going on, but we're in the mountains this time. And of course he saves the day. I love Kilkenny. I love the subtle romance in this book because if you watched one of my past videos, I remember which one it was, but I mentioned that I really like subtle romances. The romance between Lance Kilkenny and Nita Riordan is just so cute and simple and sweet that I love it. Because it's never the focal point of the book, but the way it's done within the book is just so beautiful, and I just love it so much. And also just they're action-packed, really enjoyable. I really love Lewis L'Amour books. So if you're ever in the mood for a Western, just read a Lewis L'Amour book and your thirst will be quenched. I think I gave them both 4 stars. It made me wonder though, Mountain Valley War, I really enjoyed. And it kind of made me reevaluate if I loved that one more than I loved the last one, which is Kilkenny. I think I still like Kilkenny best, but they're neck and neck. Those are kind of all the books that I read in February. I say kind of because let's discuss my March TBR. So the reason it's a kind of is because I read Monument Rock by Lewis L'Amour, but I mean I read the short story Monument Rock by Lewis L'Amour. This is a short story collection. I believe it's just 2, but one of them is titled Monument Rock, and that one is a Kilkenny short story. So that's the one I read. There is another short story in here, and I've been debating if I want to go ahead and read it or if I want to wait. And for on Goodreads, should I go ahead and mark it as read? Because I have read this whole collection before. So should I go ahead and mark it as read, even though I've only reread half of it now? But I did read the Kilkenny short story in this book, and it was just as fantastic as ever. Although, can I just say something? Here's something that frustrates me. Okay, listen. This is gonna be a spoiler. Again, here's a timestamp if you care. I have a feeling you probably don't care, but if you do, you can skip to here. At the end of the first Kilkenny book, The Rider of Lost Creek, he doesn't stay around for Nita Riordan because he doesn't want her to have to deal with his gunslinger life, and so he takes off. At the end of the second book, he's like, you know what? I think it's time. I think we should just get married. But they don't. At the third book, you discover that he left again. And then at the end of the third book, he's like, this is it. We're gonna get married. And then at the end of this short story, they're still not married. Literally at the end of Kilkenny, he says, honey, there's a preacher over here. I think we should go. Like, they mention preacher. Like, they're gonna get married. And then they aren't. And then he's like, we're gonna get married, we're gonna move to California where nobody knows the name Cherokee. And I'm like, you said you were gonna get married 3 books ago. When is this gonna happen? So that's a bit frustrating. I think it's more of a like a Lewis Lamore wanted to keep the story going, so he just kept like breaking them apart. And I'm kind of not complaining because it meant I got more books, but also I'm complaining. Mostly because I wanted them to be married in this one. That's my big complaint. Because it's after Kilkenny, which is the last book in the trilogy. Although there's technically like a 4th book. I don't think I've ever read that one. I'm not sure though. And watch, they won't be married in that one. I need to find that book, and if that happens, I'm gonna riot. Yeah, that's my big complaint. It's not consistent in that way. So basically, I've read half of this book. I haven't read the first half of this book, so it's kind of a read for February, kind of not. I haven't decided if I want to go ahead and finish reading it, or if I just want to go ahead and just mark it as read since I have already read it before. Well, I'll figure out what I'll do. So my next book that I'm reading, I'm also considering not finishing reading. Please let me know what you think I should do for this one. Although in all honesty, probably by the time this video has gone up, I will have already decided what I'm doing. My friend Leslie says I should continue reading it because the end is really good. But I'm kind of struggling with it. And that is Shades of Grey by Jasper Fforde. I want to say his name is just pronounced Ford. It's got 2 F's and then an E at the end, but it says Ford in the middle. So that's what I'm going with. What I can gather, this book is about a world where color is a class system, but not like skin tone color, but like color that you can see with your eyes. Like some people can only see greens and some people can only see reds and some people are like elites and can see purples. At least I think purple is elite. So that kind of is the class system. And some people can't see color, I'm assuming, and they're grays and they're like the low ones of the class system. It has been compared to Douglas Adams' writing, and I can kind of see that, but also it's just screaming more 1984 than it is screaming like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And I'm not hating this book by any means, I'm just not loving it, and it's not grabbing me. And with how busy life has been for me lately, I just don't find myself reaching for it to pick it up. Oh, you're leaving me? I just don't find myself reaching for it to pick it up, and so I just haven't finished it. And so I don't know if I want to plow through and finish it now, or if I should wait and try and reread it later, but it's one of those things that I'm worried if I just put it aside, I'll never get back to it. So Leslie says I should plow through. I think I'll try and plow through, but I'm also worried that if I do that, I won't love it as much as I could, because I'm worried I'll do a lot of skim reading, because I've already done a little bit of skim reading, I'm not gonna lie. So I'm not quite sure what to do with this one. I think I'm gonna try and go ahead and finish it. I am almost halfway through. I'm on page 144. There's about 400-ish pages in this, so I've read a pretty good chunk, but it just kind of feels like we're still doing the world building, and I just haven't like cared that much yet, if that makes sense. So we'll see where this goes. I think I'm gonna go ahead and just finish it, but we'll see. Hey guys, Editing Hannah here to let you know that the rest of my TBR is going to be cut because it was kind of a TBR for a video, and that video is just not gonna happen this month. Like, I haven't done any of the reading that I had planned for that, so I just decided to go ahead and cut it out. It will get done at some point, just not this month. But yeah, this is gonna be the end of this video. So that is it for this video. Comment down below and let me know if you are doing any kind of themed reading for this month. Also comment down below and let me know if you have liked having Jasmine here for the entire video, because let me just say that I have. Also, I hope you don't get too used to this setup. I think it actually worked pretty well. I can't tell if I have stayed in focus the entire time or if the lighting has stayed okay the entire time, but I feel like it's a very mature setup for filming. Don't get used to it. I don't know if I'll ever be able to film here again, but I hope you enjoyed it for the little time it was here. So yes, aren't these gorgeous? I placed them here just for y'all. I just wanted to show them off. It's my mom's. I found them for her, and they're beautiful. So that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see y'all again in another one soon. I have to get up now.